Assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Tower of God, Episode 4, Crown Test. 3-man Enna, 3-man leave. That's right, my friends, Tower of God returns for another episode which just pours on the action. Anyone who's watched my anime reviews in the past knows that I'm kind of an action junkie, so this was definitely an episode that made me go from 6 to midnight. Not to mention, the Tower of God anime series continues to use one of its biggest strengths, its ability to build its lore and its characters. There's a lot of intrigue in this episode, despite the fact that it was basically watching a lot of freaks and monsters fight each other. Before we dive into the deeper details of this episode right here, again, I want to continue to thank you guys for watching and supporting these reviews. They're doing really great. I love the conversation. I love the fact that you guys are actually helping me understand the series a little bit more. There's a lot to take in Tower of God, and at times it can get kind of confusing. There are a lot of details in the last episode all about Kun and his sister, which I got kind of confused, and luckily you guys are there to sort of keep me on track, so I do appreciate all of that. And again, I would love for you guys to continue to discuss in the comment section below, and I'd love to talk with you guys a little bit more about this show. But this episode right here gave me exactly what I wanted, which was lots of action. We go back to the big crown test, where Anak has crowned herself, and she's just hanging out on the throne, and it's up to Hots and Shibisu to defend her against any and all opponents. And this episode introduces a number of crazy ones, and we get a lot of action in this episode. And it also made me realize that you can't judge a book by its cover. I've been giving Shibisu kind of a hard time throughout this episode, but he actually does seem to have some sort of martial arts skill, as he's able to defend himself against Serena and Ho in this episode. In fact, he ends up basically falcon punching the absolute hell out of Serena in this episode, and it looks straight up painful, and she is able to immediately get up from this, but again, it shows that Shibisu is actually going to be pretty capable. Hots, of course, is incredibly awesome with his sword skills, being able to throw one of them, which seems to be able to magically just sort of fly around the room and fight against other people all on its own. It might be the signature skill of that sword, or maybe it's just a special technique that he can use, but again, both him and Shibisu were really awesome in this episode. That was until things got really serious when they reintroduced the character of Lauro, a character who has been shown for a number of episodes as just kind of a goofball who's sleeping in his very own big old man baby blanket. Essentially, Lauro was biding his time, allowing Serena and Ho to do a little bit of damage, act as a distraction, so that, of course, that he could awaken and use his signature abilities. He is a wave controller, according to Kun. He's able to use Shinsu to a great degree, and is able to basically blast it like a giant Kamehameha blast from Dragon Ball Z, going directly after Anak, which basically just manages to piss her off, and she's looking for a good fight herself, and that's when she decides to use her signature weapon, which is officially revealed a name in this episode, known as the Green April. And what's really cool about her weapon is that we get to learn that it's actually connected to the one that's being used by Bomb, the Black March. Apparently these weapons are called the 13-month series, and each of them seems to be named after a specific month, and it looks like they're all going to have really crazy powers. Now this brings up a pretty interesting question. We already know that these weapons are gifted to the princesses of Jihad. Bomb received his from a princess who goes by the name of Yuri, and you have to wonder, why does Anak have one of these swords? Well, apparently she is another one of these princesses, and she has that weapon known as the Green April, which is a sword and a whip. It can also transform into massive destructive vines, which just kick the shit out of everything. So yeah, Anak is a lizard girl princess, and she gets really pissed off when she learns that Bomb actually has the Black March. She even goes as far as to trying to basically bow up on him in front of their group, which causes their team to actually inadvertently lose the crown test, but she decides to make a bet with Bomb, basically saying if they're able to get through this entire competition, if Bomb's team wins, she will end up giving him the Green April, and vice versa. If she wins, then she's going to get the Black March. I have a feeling that Anak is still going to end up being kind of like one of the main characters of the series, and I can see her sort of teaming up with Bomb in the future, and even if they do end up winning, I have a feeling he's probably going to allow her to keep the Green April, as it really is a part of her overall personality. So yeah, Anak is super pissed off that some regular looking human is using such a super powerful weapon, which is meant for all of the princess characters in the series. Of course, her team is disqualified, and that's when we move on to the next part of the competition, where it looks like Bomb and his group are actually going to get right into the thick of things. This is also where the episode just goes off on the rails, and we have all of these other teams enter, and man, there are a lot of really great characters in this episode. Crazy wizard girls, a demonic-looking squirrel, and a giant black blob that can transform into all different types of objects. There are so many wacky and insane characters in this episode, it's hard not to get excited about all of the action. Of course, Kun is the one who ends up stealing all of the show, a character who's been built up tremendously over the course of the first 4 episodes, and I've always been wondering what his special abilities are with that bag, and I sort of thought about it a lot in this episode, because, again, one of the funnier scenes of the episode is that Rack decides that he wants 10 more chocolate bars if they decide they're actually going to wait a little bit more in this competition, and Kun's like, oh yeah, no problem, I got him right here, and it made me think, how much crap can he actually fit into that bag? And apparently this bag is incredibly powerful and is sort of like a pocket space. It can basically hold just about anything, and he ends up using this to his advantage when he immediately goes after the crown, but instead of actually putting it on, he places it in the bag. He then pulls out the crown yet again, throws it into the middle of this melee, and everybody just starts fighting for it. And it's a great thing to do, because now basically he can just watch the chaos unfold as they wait until everyone's defeated, and then he can bring out the real crown. Apparently the one that he threw out was a fake the entire time, which leads me to believe that not only does he like to mess with his opponents a little bit, but maybe his bag also has the ability to sort of replicate objects as well, or maybe he just had a lot of things that he can fit in here and he sort of preemptively knew that the crown test was coming and he had a fake just sort of waiting in the wings. Either way, it shows that Kun himself is not only a powerful character, but an incredibly resourceful and smart one as well. And again, it just made me love his character all the more. It also ends really great because we get to see that Bomb is now on the throne. Of course, he's going to be wearing the crown, and it's only a matter of time before other people go after him, including Rachel and her team, who are also slightly built up just a little bit in this episode. I mentioned in my previous review that there's that one girl who keeps eyeing Anak, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. This chick has got to be a princess. She has to be some sort of competing princess with Anak and all of the others, and she clearly knows there's something weird about the character of Anak, someone she refers to as an impostor, and this brings up so many more interesting questions about the relationship between these two characters, but I can't wait to see, because now we have these two characters. You have Rachel, who's connected to Bomb, you have this weird creepy chick who's connected to Anak. I wonder what the deal is with the giant dude. I can't wait to see what he's all about. All I know is this episode right here, guys, just kicked all sorts of ass. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Tower of God? Again, one of my favorite things about this series is how every single episode manages to one-up itself in pretty much every department. The characterization, the action, and just building on the lore of this world. And this episode sort of had all of it, and it was one of those episodes that when you're done, you're like, wow, that was a jam-packed experience. There was so much to take away from this episode, and just about all of the major characters got to do something really awesome, and yet they still had time to build upon the lore of these weapons, and the fact that the characters are still in this dire situation, and yet there's still room for just a little bit of comedy from Rack Wraithrazor. Everything just is working so perfectly in Tower of God, and I can understand why some viewers are probably feeling that the pacing of the show is moving way too fast. For me, I'm loving it. I'm loving watching all of this unfold. It's just so amazing that it's worth rewatching a second time as soon as you're done watching an episode to try and catch all of the minor details. It also really helped that the production value in this episode was kicked up to 11. There was a lot of really fantastic action scenes, some really great choreography, and again, it truly does help that every single character looks unique. There isn't a single character who just blends into the background. Every single opponent in this freaking competition, in this crown game, has their very own unique design and personality and special abilities. And these teams don't even seem like they would work really well together. Like I said, the final couple minutes of the episode when you have all of these crazy people just arriving to compete in the crown game, every single one just looks so unique and inventive. Like, I didn't expect to see a weird little creepy demonic squirrel dude and a giant, like, black monster blob, and then there's the chick who's like a wizard with like a Shinsu staff. There's so much unique qualities to all these characters. I also love that we finally got to see Lauro in action. Again, the minute they showed his character and the fact that he was a dude who was just hanging out in a sleeping bag, like, I knew he was going to end up being important. And my theory behind his abilities of Shinsu is that basically he has to sleep in order to sort of charge up all of his power. That's why he's able to use it to such a crazy degree. And it was one of the biggest attacks that we've seen from the series. And it was so big and insane that it only pissed off Anak, which again made me love her character all the more. She manages to be incredibly cute and terrifying all at the same time. She is a no-nonsense kind of character. And seeing her teamed up with Hots and Shibisu, again, is a great combination, if only for the fact that these characters are so different. You have Hots, who's incredibly cool and composed and very calm. You have Anak, who appears that way at first, but is able to lose her temper. And then you have Shibisu, who, while being incredibly goofy, also can manage to back up some of his words. Some of the choreography he had in this episode while fighting against Serena and Ho was really, really well done, even though he's not like a super mega strong, powerful character. Also, the guy has just some of the best expressions that I've seen in just about any anime. Loved this episode of Tower of God. I'm giving the episode a 5 out of 5. I thought this was incredibly entertaining. I would love to get all of your thoughts about it. Make sure to sound off in the comments section below what you thought about this episode of Tower of God, your favorite action moments, your favorite character moments, the revelation about the 13-month series weapons, Rachel getting ready to go into battle, giving the order that it's okay to kill everyone. What's the deal with that other girl who could very well be a princess who has a problem with Anak the Impostor? What do you want to see from the future of Tower of God? Let's discuss all of it in the comment section below. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. I am reviewing a number of other series this season. We also have a weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Again, if you liked this video, share it with all your friends. Make sure to hit that like button. It helps out these videos a lot. If you really want to help out the channel, please check out my Patreon. You can find links for all that stuff in the description box below. If you guys make a donation, I will review an anime series of your choice. I have a Patreon review, which is coming up in the next couple of days, and I'm already working on the next one right after that, so make sure to stay tuned for all that good stuff. So, there it is. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby. That little squirrel bastard's gonna give me nightmares, man.